I'm 68 years old and I've forgotten a lot of things in my life. Where I put my reading glasses, what I had for breakfast last Tuesday, the name of that actress in the movie we watched last month. But I will never ever forget what I saw in the mirror at our Christmas party. My name is Jean Edwards. For 40 years, I taught literature and drama at Roosevelt High School here in Seattle. I taught Shakespeare and Tennessee Williams. I taught kids how to become someone else on stage, how to make an audience believe a lie so completely that it becomes truth. I never thought I'd have to use those skills to save my own life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start at the beginning. December 24th, 2025. Christmas Eve. The night everything changed. Our home sits in Madison Park, one of those neighborhoods in Seattle where old money and tech money blend together on tree-lined streets. Joe and I bought this house 32 years ago, a sprawling craftsman-style beauty with white-trimmed cedar shingles and a view of Lake Washington that makes you believe in God. 3 stories, original hardwood floors, a stone fireplace that's seen 3 decades of Christmas mornings. That night the house was full, maybe 50 people, my book club friends, Joe's former colleagues from the engineering firm, neighbors from down the street. Our housekeeper, Sarah Martinez, had outdone herself. Garlands draped every doorway, candles flickered on every surface, and a 10-foot Douglas fir stood in the corner of the living room, heavy with gold ribbon and glass ornaments I'd collected over a lifetime. I should have been happy. It was Christmas Eve. My family was together, but I wasn't happy. I was confused. For 3 months, I'd been losing pieces of myself. Small things at first. I'd walk into a room and forget why I'd gone there. I'd start a sentence and the words would simply vanish, like someone had reached into my brain and plucked them out. My doctor, a young woman at Swedish Medical Center who looked barely old enough to drink, had run tests, MRIs, cognitive assessments, blood work. Everything came back inconclusive, which is doctor speak for we have no idea. Early stage dementia, she'd said gently, handing me pamphlets about memory care facilities. It happens, Mrs. Edwards. I'm so sorry. Joe had held my hand in that sterile office while I cried. 47 years of marriage, and I was going to forget his face. But standing there at the Christmas party, holding a glass of cranberry apple juice, Sarah's special holiday blend, I felt that fog in my brain again, thicker than usual. Barbara Hayes from next door was talking to me about her grandson's soccer team, and I couldn't follow the words. They sounded like they were coming from underwater. Jean, are you all right? I blinked. I'm sorry. What were you saying? Barbara's face creased with concern. Honey, maybe you should sit down. You look pale. I was about to respond when I saw them. My son Silas and his wife Molly had arrived 20 minutes earlier. Silas is 35 now, handsome in that polished way that comes from expensive gyms and dental work. He wore a navy suit that probably cost more than our first car. But his face was wrong, sweaty despite the cold December air, eyes darting around the room like he was searching for exits. Molly stood beside him in a black cocktail dress and heels sharp enough to kill. At 30 years old, she was the kind of beautiful that made other women instinctively check their own reflections. Blonde hair and a perfect French twist. Makeup like a magazine cover. She'd been a pharmacist before marrying Silas, but now she spent her days at yoga studios and charity brunches. I'd never liked her. Not from the first day Silas brought her home 3 years ago. There was something calculated in the way she smiled. Something cold in her eyes when she looked at our family photos, at Joe's collection of vintage watches, at the antique jewelry I kept in my bedroom. But what I saw next made my blood stop. Molly was standing at the drink station, a long table near the window where Sarah had set up punch bowls and champagne flutes. She glanced around once, quick and efficient. Then she reached into her black Chanel clutch and pulled out a small blister pack. I was standing near the Christmas tree, maybe 15 feet away, partially hidden by the garland. Molly couldn't see me, but I could see her reflection in the antique mirror hanging above the drink station. And I watched her pop a single pill from the foil backing. Small, oval, pale blue. She placed it between 2 silver serving spoons from the tray. Pressed down. The pill crumbled into fine powder. My heart started hammering. That fog in my brain, it lifted. Just like that. Sudden and complete, like someone had turned on stadium lights. Molly reached for the juice pitchers. Apple cranberry. The same blend I'd been drinking all night. She poured 2 glasses, 8 ounces each. Identical crystal tumblers with gold rims. Then she tipped the blue powder into the left glass. I watched the dust swirl and dissolve. She stirred it with the silver spoon. 3 rotations, clockwise, methodical, like she'd done this before. Then she set both glasses side by side on the white tablecloth. Left glass poisoned, right glass clean. Molly turned toward the mirror, checking her lipstick. I had maybe 4 seconds. Every drama teacher knows the power of a decisive action. The moment when you commit to the scene, when hesitation means failure. I had taught hundreds of students over the years. Don't think, react, trust your instincts. I moved. My hands were steady. I grabbed both glasses and switched their positions. Left to right to left. The poisoned glass now sat where the clean one had been. I stepped back, lifted a champagne flute as cover, and took a sip I didn't taste. Molly turned back around. She didn't notice. The glasses were identical. She picked up the one on the right, the one she thought was clean, the one that was now loaded with whatever drug she'd crushed, and took a small sip. Testing, making sure it tasted normal. She smiled, satisfied. Then she lifted the other glass and turned toward me. I stood there, champagne flute in hand, and watched my daughter-in-law walk across the living room with murder in her manicured hands. "Mom, Jean," she said warmly, her voice pitched just loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "I brought you some of Sarah's cranberry blend. You love this, remember?" I looked at the glass. Clean now. Safe. "I do?" The words came out confused, slurred. I wasn't acting. The shock was real. "Of course you do, sweetheart." Molly pressed the glass into my hand, her fingers cold against mine. "Drink up. It'll help you feel better." I lifted it to my lips, took one small sip, then another. The juice tasted normal, sweet, slightly tart, no bitterness. "It tastes different," I said, frowning. "It's fresh." Molly's smile never wavered. "Sarah just made it." I took another sip and watched Molly's eyes. She was watching me drink, waiting. For what? For me to collapse? To start seizing? I set the glass down on the mantel, half finished. "I think I need to sit down." "Of course." Molly took my elbow, guided me toward the couch. "You just rest. I'll check on you in a bit." I sat down and she disappeared back into the crowd. 20 minutes passed. I stayed on the couch, watching, waiting. My brain was crystal clear now, clearer than it had been in months. All the fog, all the confusion, it was just gone, like it had never been real. Molly circulated through the party, chatting with guests, checking her phone, laughing at someone's joke. Then she stopped moving. She froze in the middle of the room, one hand pressed to her throat. Her face flushed deep red. Sweat beaded on her forehead, ran down her temples, ruining that perfect makeup. "God, it's hot in here," she said loudly. Her voice was slurred. "Is it hot?" Barbara Hayes, standing next to her, frowned. "It's 65 degrees, honey. Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Molly pulled at the neckline of her dress. "I just need air." She stumbled toward the window. Her heel caught on our Persian rug. She went down hard, knees first, then hands, then face. Someone screamed. The room erupted into motion, people rushing forward, wine glasses shattering, Sarah shouting in Spanish. Molly convulsed on the floor. Her body arched like a bridge under too much weight. Her eyes rolled back, white and empty. Foam bubbled at the corners of her mouth, pink-tinged. Her legs kicked once, twice, then went rigid. Silas shoved through the crowd and dropped beside her. "Molly! Someone call 911!" I already had my phone out. My voice was calm when I spoke to the dispatcher. I gave them our address, described the symptoms, estimated age and weight, everything they needed. The ambulance arrived in 8 minutes. They loaded Molly onto a stretcher, started an IV, checked her vitals. Silas climbed in with her, his face the color of paper. The ambulance screamed away into the night. The party died. Guests filed out in awkward silence. Within an hour, the house was empty except for Joe, Sarah, and me. I sat on the couch, staring at the Christmas tree. Gold ribbons, glass ornaments, all those years of family memories hanging from green branches. "What happened?" Joe asked quietly. He'd been talking to colleagues in the study when Molly collapsed. He'd missed everything. "Molly got sick," I said. My voice sounded strange, distant. "They took her to the hospital." Joe sat down beside me, 70 years old, silver hair, weathered hands that still knew how to calculate load-bearing stress and steel beams. He'd spent 40 years as a structural engineer, building bridges and skyscrapers, teaching our son the mathematics of keeping things from falling down. "Gene, you're shaking." I looked at my hands. He was right. "I saw something tonight," I whispered. Something I wasn't supposed to see. Before I could explain, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "Mom, it's Paige. I'm boarding a flight from Boston right now. I'll be there tomorrow morning. Don't drink or eat anything Molly or Silas gives you. I'll explain when I get there. I love you." I stared at the message. Paige, my daughter. My brilliant, analytical, fiercely protective daughter who worked as a data analyst in Boston. I hadn't told her about the party, hadn't mentioned Molly collapsing. How did she know? Joe read the message over my shoulder. "What the hell is going on?" "I don't know," I said. But that was a lie. I knew exactly what was going on. My daughter-in-law had just tried to kill me, and somehow, impossibly, my daughter already knew about it. I looked at Joe, at the concern in his eyes, at the gray stubble on his jaw and the liver spots on his hands. 47 years of marriage, 2 children, a lifetime of Christmas mornings in this house. And I made a decision. "Joe," I said quietly, "I need to tell you what I saw tonight. And then we need to call William Hayes. William Hayes, our neighbor, Barbara's husband, retired Seattle PD detective, 28 years in homicide." "Why William?" I picked up my champagne flute from the side table, the one I'd grabbed when I switched the glasses. My fingerprints were on it, but so were Molly's. "Because," I said, "I think our son has been trying to kill us, and I think I just saved my own life." We didn't sleep that night. Joe called William Hayes at midnight. Our neighbor, retired detective, Barbara's husband, listened without interrupting. When Joe finished, William said just 3 words. "I'll be right over." He arrived 20 minutes later. We sat in the study with the door locked, and I told him everything. The mirror, the crushed pill, the switched glasses, the 3 months of dementia that now made terrible, perfect sense. William took notes, asked questions. When I finished, he looked at both of us with the steady gaze of someone who'd seen the worst humanity had to offer. "You did the right thing switching those glasses, Gene," he said quietly. "And you're doing the right thing calling me now." "What happens next?" Joe asked. "Now?" William closed his notebook. "Now we build a case, but we do it carefully, because the people trying to kill you are sleeping upstairs in your guest room." I felt ice in my veins. "Molly's still in the hospital. She'll be back tomorrow, with Silas." William stood. "When she does, you act normal, confused, exactly like they expect. Can you do that?" I thought about 40 years teaching drama. About every performance, every opening night, every moment I'd ask students to become someone else. "Yes," I said, "I can do that." William nodded. "Good, because I already called someone who can help. Your daughter, Paige." My heart stopped. "How did you—" "I sent her an anonymous email 2 months ago. Told her to check your medical records. She's been investigating ever since." He pulled on his coat. "She's boarding a flight right now. Should land around 6 a.m. Joe and I looked at each other. Our daughter already knew. "Get some rest," William said at the door. "Tomorrow, the real work begins." But we didn't rest. We sat in that study until dawn broke over Lake Washington, holding hands, watching the city wake up, knowing that everything had changed. Our son was trying to kill us, and we were going to stop him. Paige arrived at 7 the next morning. I heard her key in the lock. She still had the spare from high school, and then she was there, standing in our foyer with a carry-on bag and dark circles under her eyes. 32 years old, my baby girl, wearing jeans and a Boston University sweatshirt. Her auburn hair, my hair before mine went silver, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She took one look at me and burst into tears. "Mom," I held her. Right there in the entryway, still in my bathrobe, I held my daughter and felt something crack open in my chest. All the fear I'd been holding in since the Christmas party came flooding out. "I thought I was losing my mind," I whispered into her hair. "I thought I was going crazy." "You're not crazy." Paige pulled back, gripped my shoulders. Her eyes, Joe's eyes, that sharp engineer's focus, scanned my face. "How do you feel right now? Clear-headed?" "Yes. Since last night, everything's been clear, like someone turned on the lights." "That's because you haven't had scopolamine in your system for 24 hours. The word hung between us. "Scopolamine," I repeated. "That's what she's been giving me?" "For 3 months, maybe longer." Paige pulled out her phone, showed me a medical website. "It's a drug that causes confusion, memory loss, disorientation. In elderly patients, it mimics dementia perfectly, and Molly had access. She worked as a pharmacist before she married Silas." Joe appeared at the top of the stairs. "Paige, how long have you known about this?" My daughter's face hardened. "Since October. 2 months. We sat in Joe's study with the door locked. Paige spread papers across the desk, printouts, screenshots, handwritten notes, a detective's case board, except the suspect was my own son. "October 15th, Paige began. "I got an email from an anonymous Gmail account. Just one sentence. 'Check your mother's medical records. Something's wrong.' Who sent it?" I asked. "I didn't know then, but I do now." She glanced at Joe. "It was William Hayes, our neighbor, Barbara's husband, the retired detective." Joe leaned forward. "Will was investigating?" "He couldn't officially. He had no jurisdiction, no evidence. But Sarah called him in early October. She was worried about you, Mom. She noticed you forgetting things, acting confused, but she also noticed that it only happened after Molly's visits." I remembered September. Molly and Silas had come for Labor Day weekend. Molly had made me tea every morning. "Special blend," she'd said, "to help you relax." 3 days later, I'd forgotten my book club meeting for the first time in 15 years. "Sarah told William," Paige continued, "and William started watching. He saw Molly coming over twice a week, staying for hours, always in the kitchen, making you tea or bringing you food. Then you'd get worse." "So he sent you the email," he said. "He knew I could do something he couldn't, access your medical records digitally." Paige's voice dropped. "So I hacked into Swedish Medical Center's database." Joe's eyes widened. "You what?" "I violated HIPAA. I committed a federal crime." Paige looked at her father without flinching. "And I'd do it again in a heartbeat, because what I found confirmed everything." She pulled out a chart. My test results from the past 6 months. Cognitive scores declining. Memory assessments getting worse. All the markers of dementia. "But look at this." Paige pointed to a date, December 22nd. 2 days before Christmas Eve, you had blood work done. I got the raw lab results. There were trace amounts of scopolamine in your system." "The doctor never mentioned that," I said, "because she didn't test for it. Standard dementia workup doesn't include toxicology screening, but the compound showed up anyway, probably because the levels were so high." I felt sick. "How high?" "High enough that another week of exposure would have caused permanent brain damage or death." The room went silent. Joe's voice was rough. "Our son is trying to kill his mother." "Not just Mom." Paige pulled out another document. "Dad, do you remember getting sick on December 10th? Violently ill? Ended up in the ER?" Joe nodded slowly. "Food poisoning, they said." "No. Scopolamine poisoning. Silas came over that night, made you hot chocolate. Remember? I watched my husband's face go white. He tried to kill me first, Joe whispered. You survived. Your body fought it off. So they pivoted. Paige looked at me. They went after someone older, frailer, someone who wouldn't survive. Why? The word tore out of me. Why would he do this? Paige pulled out her laptop. I hired a private investigator. Vincent Torres, former CSI, went private 5 years ago. He's been tracking Silas and Molly for 6 weeks. She opened a file. Bank statements, credit card bills, casino receipts. Silas has a gambling problem. Crypto trading, sports betting, high-stakes poker games. Over the past 2 years, he's lost $4.2 million. Joe made a choking sound. He borrowed from a loan shark named Gino Ferretti, the kind of man who doesn't take "I can't pay" for an answer. Silas's deadline is December 31st, midnight. If he doesn't pay, Gino kills him. I thought about my son, the little boy who'd built Lego towers and wanted to be an engineer like his father, the teenager who'd gotten a full scholarship to University of Washington. When had he become this? But we don't have that kind of money, I said. We live comfortably, but you have $32 million, Paige said quietly. In the trust fund from Grandma's estate, the one you've never touched. The timber fortune. My mother's family had owned half the logging operations in Oregon back in the 50s. When she died, she'd left everything to me in a trust. Joe and I had never needed it. We'd always planned to give it to our children someday. Someday. Not like this. They needed you declared incompetent, Paige explained. Emergency guardianship. Once Silas had legal control, he could access the trust, pay off Gino, save himself. And then what? Joe asked. Let Gene die? Paige pulled out one more document, an email exchange between Silas and Molly, dated December 20th. Silas: what happens after we get the money? Dad's asking questions. Molly: old people have heart attacks. It happens. Both of them, within a few months of each other. Tragic, but believable. I read it 3 times. The words didn't change. My son was planning to murder both his parents. We have to go to the police, Joe said. Right now. Show them everything. No, Paige's voice was steel. If we go now, they lawyer up. Washington is a 2-party consent state. These recordings might be inadmissible. The emails could be argued as theoretical conversation. We need them to commit the crime in front of legal witnesses. How? I asked. We set a trap. New Year's Eve. That's Silas's deadline, 11:59 p.m. We make him think you're cooperating, that you're signing guardianship papers. We bring in a lawyer, a notary, witnesses, and we let them hang themselves. Joe shook his head. Gene could get hurt. If they realize, they won't. Paige looked at me. Because Mom is going to give the performance of her life, aren't you? I thought about 40 years in a classroom, teaching kids how to inhabit a character so completely that the audience forgot they were watching a play, teaching them to hide their true feelings behind a mask. I'd taught hundreds of students how to lie convincingly. Now I was going to use those skills to save my own life. What do you need me to do? I asked. The next 5 days were the hardest of my life. Silas and Molly moved into our house on December 26th, supposedly to help take care of Mom. They brought 5 Louis Vuitton suitcases and took over the guest room. Molly set up what she called a medication station in the kitchen. 12 orange prescription bottles, neatly labeled. Anxiety meds, sleep aids, cognitive enhancers. All fake, according to Paige. Or rather, all real medications, but prescribed for someone else, bought illegally, designed to make me more confused and compliant. But I didn't take them. Every morning, Molly brought me tea and pills. I'd hide the pills under my tongue, swallow the tea, then spit everything into the potted plant beside my bed when she left. At night, when she brought more pills, I'd do it again. And I acted. God, did I act. I shuffled when I walked, stared blankly during conversations, called Joe by Silas's name, asked the same questions 3 times in an hour. It broke my heart to see the relief in Molly's eyes. She thought it was working. Meanwhile, Paige was building the trap. Vincent Torres installed 8 hidden cameras throughout the house. Smoke detectors, electrical outlets, air vents. Wireless, cloud uploaded, impossible to detect unless you knew what to look for. Kate Morrison, our family lawyer for 20 years, prepared 2 sets of documents. 1 fake guardianship agreement, to make Silas think it was real, and 1 real emergency protective order, to use the moment we needed it. Daniel Price, a notary public and former paralegal, agreed to witness the signing ceremony. He understood his role: observe, document, testify. William Hayes coordinated with Seattle PD. His former partner, Sergeant Rebecca Cole, agreed to have a unit on standby. Sarah Martinez came back, sneaking in through the back door, hiding in the kitchen, ready to testify about everything she'd witnessed. And I kept pretending. December 30th, 1 day before the trap. I was sitting in the living room pretending to read a book upside down when Silas's phone rang. He was on the couch across from me, laptop open, pretending to work. He looked at the caller ID. His face went gray. "I need to take this," he muttered, walking into the hallway. But I could hear him. Everyone could hear him. "I told you, I'll have it tomorrow." "Yes, by midnight." "I swear to God, Gino, I'm not lying." "My father's signing the papers tomorrow night." "Yes, the full amount. Please, just 1 more day." His voice cracked. "Don't hurt my family. This isn't their fault. Just give me 1 more day." He came back into the living room. Molly looked up from her phone. "Was that?" "Yeah." "What did he say?" Silas's hands were shaking. "He said if I don't pay by midnight tomorrow, he's sending his guys to the house. To this house. He said he'd start with Dad, then work his way through the family until I watch everyone I love die." Molly stood up, walked to him, put her hands on his face. "Then we'd better make sure your father signs those papers." She kissed him, gentle, loving, like they weren't talking about murdering Joe's parents. I sat there, book upside down in my lap, watching my son kiss his wife, watching them plan our deaths. And I didn't move. Didn't react. Just stared at the pages like I couldn't understand words anymore. Inside, I was screaming. But outside, I was Gene Edwards, dementia patient, confused, harmless, already half gone. Vincent's camera captured everything. December 31st, 7:00 p.m. Joe called a family meeting. Silas and Molly sat on the couch. I sat in the armchair, wrapped in a blanket, looking small and frail. Joe's voice was tired, defeated, exactly what Paige had coached him to sound like. "I've been thinking about what you said, Silas, about your mother needing professional care." Silas sat up straighter. "Dad, I can't do this anymore. Watching her fade, this morning she asked me who I was." Joe's voice cracked, not acting this time. The emotion was real. "Maybe you're right. Maybe she needs more than I can give." Molly leaned forward. "What are you saying?" "Tonight, 10 o'clock, I'll sign the guardianship papers." Joe looked at his son. "But we do this properly. Lawyer, notary, official documents. I want everything legal." I watched Silas's face transform. Relief, joy, hope. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you, Dad. You're doing the right thing. Mom will get the best care, I promise." Joe nodded, didn't speak, didn't trust himself to speak. Molly checked her watch. 3 hours until the signing. 5 hours until midnight. 5 hours until Gino's deadline. "We'll be ready," she said. 9:45 p.m. The study was set up like a boardroom. Joe's desk cleared. Chairs arranged in a semicircle. Kate Morrison sat on the left, briefcase open, documents spread out. Daniel Price sat on the right, notary stamp and logbook ready. William Hayes was parked outside, engine running, phone in hand. Vincent Torres was monitoring camera feeds remotely. Sarah Martinez was hidden in the kitchen pantry. notebook in her lap, writing down everything she could hear. Paige was in the storage room adjacent to the study, laptop open, watching everything on 8 simultaneous video feeds. And I sat in an armchair beside Joe's desk, wrapped in my blanket, looking confused and small and harmless. At 9:58 p.m., Silas and Molly walked in. Silas wore a suit, too tight in the shoulders, wrinkled from stress sweat. He kept checking his watch every 30 seconds. Tick, tick, tick. Molly wore a red cocktail dress. Hair perfect. Makeup perfect. She looked like she was going to a charity gala, not a family intervention. She smiled at Kate, at Daniel, at Joe and me. "Thank you all for being here," she said warmly. "This is hard for the family, but it's the right thing for Jean." Kate didn't smile back. At exactly 10:00 p.m., the grandfather clock in the hallway began to chime. 1. Kate spread the guardianship documents on the desk. 2. Silas pulled out a pen. His hand shook. 3. Joe reached for the papers. 4. I took a deep breath. 5. And I stood up. 6. The blanket fell from my shoulders. 7. Everyone turned to look at me. 8. I wasn't confused anymore. My back was straight. My eyes were clear. 9. "Before anyone signs anything," I said clearly, "I have a question." 10. The chime faded. Silas stared at me. "Mom?" I looked at my son, at my daughter-in-law, at the 2 people who'd spent 3 months systematically destroying my mind. "Do you think I'm stupid?" My voice filled the room, not the voice of a dementia patient, the voice of a woman who'd commanded classrooms for 40 years. "Do you think I didn't see you crush that pill at the Christmas party, Molly? Do you think I didn't watch you put it in my drink?" Molly's face went white. "Did you think I wouldn't switch the glasses? That I'd just drink poison and die quietly?" Silas stood up. "Dad, she's confused. She doesn't—" "Sit down!" The command cracked like a whip. Silas sat. I walked to the center of the room. Strong, clear, furious. "I haven't been confused for 7 days. Not since I stopped drinking your poison tea. Not since I stopped taking your fake medications. Not since I started pretending to be the helpless old woman you wanted me to be." The storage room door opened. Paige stepped out. She had her laptop in her hands. She connected it to the TV on the wall. "Hi, Silas," she said quietly. "Hi, Molly. Want to watch some home movies?" She pressed play. The first video clip appeared on the TV screen. December 24th, 6:47 p.m. The Christmas party. The camera angle was perfect, mounted in the smoke detector above the drink station. You could see everything. Molly's hand reaching into her Chanel clutch, the blister pack, the blue pill, the 2 silver spoons, the crushing motion, the powder dissolving into the left glass of cranberry juice. Then me, stepping forward, my hands steady as I switched the glasses, left to right to left, then Molly picking up the wrong glass, taking a test sip, walking toward past me with the clean glass. Daniel Price, the notary, gasped. His pen moved furiously across his logbook. Kate Morrison's face was stone. She'd seen the videos before, but watching them in front of Silas and Molly was different. "No," Molly whispered. "That's not—" "Keep watching," Paige said. The second clip began. December 28th, 6:42 a.m. My bedroom. The camera was hidden in the ceiling vent. The angle showed my bed, the nightstand, the door. Molly entered carrying a tea tray. I was asleep, or pretending to be. She set the tray down hard. The cup rattled. "Wake up!" Her voice was sharp, cold. Nothing like the sweet daughter-in-law voice she used around others. I stirred, opened my eyes. Then Molly slapped me. The sound cracked through the study's speakers. My head snapped to the side. A red handprint bloomed on my cheek. In the study, I touched my face. The mark had faded, but I could still feel it. "Wake up, you useless old bitch!" On screen, past me touched my face. Tears welling. "Why? Why did you—" "Because you're pathetic." Molly sat on the edge of the bed. Her voice was calm now, conversational. You know what Joe told me last week? He said he wished you'd just die already. Said keeping you alive is exhausting. That's not... Joe wouldn't... He's tired of you, Jean. We all are. Molly picked up the teacup and held it to my lips. Drink this. It'll help you sleep. Isn't that what you want? To sleep forever? On screen, past me was crying, silent tears running down my wrinkled cheeks. I want to die, I whispered. I know you do, sweetheart. I know. Molly tipped the cup. Past me drank all of it. Paige stopped the video. The room was silent except for someone's ragged breathing. It took me a moment to realize it was Silas. That's... His voice broke. That's not... Molly, you said you were just giving her supplements. Vitamins. You said... She's lying, Molly said quickly. That video is fake. Doctored. There are 6 more, Paige said calmly. Want to see them all? Or should I skip to my personal favorite? The one where you and Silas discuss killing both our parents for the insurance money? Silas stood up so fast his chair fell over. We never said that. We never... Paige clicked to another clip. December 28th, 11 o'clock p.m., Silas and Molly's bedroom. They were in bed, talking in the dark. The audio was crystal clear. Molly's voice. 3 more days, then full incapacitation. We file guardianship, transfer the funds, and she won't wake up. Silas. What about Dad? Molly. Old men have heart attacks. It happens. Both of them, within a few months of each other. Tragic, but believable. Laughter. Kissing sounds. Joe made a sound like he'd been punched. I reached for his hand. Held it tight. On screen, past Silas said, I can't believe we're actually doing this. Past Molly. It's $4.2 million, baby. For that kind of money, I'd kill my own mother. More laughter. Paige stopped the video, looked at Silas. Still think it's fake? Silas collapsed. Not dramatically. Not like in movies. He just folded, knees giving out, body crumpling to the floor, hands covering his face. And he started talking. I didn't want to, he sobbed. I didn't want to hurt anyone. But Gino's men, they sent me photos of the house, of Mom and Dad. They said if I didn't pay by midnight, they'd kill everyone. I had no choice. You had every choice, Joe said. His voice was cold, flat. You could have come to us, asked for help, declared bankruptcy, gone to the police about Gino's threats. I was scared. So you decided to murder your mother? It wasn't supposed to be murder. Silas looked up, face wet with tears and snot. Molly said the scopolamine would just make her confused, make her incompetent enough for guardianship. Then we'd get the trust fund, pay Gino, and Mom would get better. That's what she told me. I looked at Molly. She was standing very still. Her face was blank. Is that what you told him? I asked quietly. She didn't answer. Because your dosage log says something different. December 31st. Final dose 1.0 millions. Estimated time of death 24 to 48 hours. Paige held up a photograph of the notebook. TOD. Time of death. You weren't making her incompetent. You were killing her. Silas's head snapped toward Molly. What? No. You said... I said what I needed to say to get you to go along with it. Molly's voice was ice. You're weak, Silas. You always have been. You gambled away $4 million and came crying to me to fix it. So I did. By killing my mother? By solving your problem. By getting you the money you needed. By saving your pathetic life. She looked at him with contempt. You were happy to go along with it when you thought you'd get the money. Don't play victim now. The mask had finally dropped. This was the real Molly. Cold, calculating, remorseless. Silas stared at her like he'd never seen her before. I loved you, he whispered. You loved what I could do for you, just like you loved your parents for what they could give you. She turned to me. All of you, so self-righteous. But you were going to give him that money eventually anyway. I just accelerated the timeline. By torture, I said. By making me think I was losing my mind, by hitting me, by telling me my husband wanted me dead. You're weak too, both of you. She gestured at Joe and me. Sitting on $32 million, living in your little house, pretending to be humble. That money should have been Silas's years ago. You were selfish for keeping it. The logic was so twisted, so narcissistic, that for a moment I couldn't speak. Joe could. Get out of my house. Gladly. Molly picked up her clutch. I'm leaving. And good luck proving anything with those illegal recordings. Two-party consent state, remember? Everything you just showed is inadmissible. She walked toward the door. William Hayes stepped into the doorway, blocking her path. He wasn't alone. Behind him stood Sergeant Rebecca Cole and 3 Seattle PD officers. You're right about one thing, William said. Those recordings might not be admissible in court, but they're perfect for establishing probable cause. Rebecca stepped forward. Molly Edwards, you're under arrest for attempted murder, elder abuse, assault, and conspiracy to commit fraud. You have the right to remain silent. Molly's face went white. 2 officers moved toward Silas, still on the floor. Silas Edwards, you're also under arrest. Wait, Silas looked at me, at Joe. Dad, Mom, please, I'm sorry. I was desperate and I made terrible mistakes, but I'm still your son. Please don't let them... My son died 3 months ago, Joe said quietly. When he chose poison over love. You're just a stranger who looks like him. The officers pulled Silas to his feet, handcuffed him. He was still crying when they let him out. Molly went silently. No tears, no protests, just cold, hard anger in her eyes. At the door, she turned back one last time. You'll regret this, she said to me. Both of you. When you're alone in that big house with no family left, you'll regret it. I looked at Paige. At Sarah emerging from the kitchen, at William and Kate and Daniel and Vincent joining us in the study, at all the people who'd risked something to help us. I have plenty of family, I said, just not the kind you'd understand. They took her away. The trial lasted 7 days in March. King County Superior Court was cold and fluorescent lit, all wood paneling and hard benches. Silas and Molly had separate lawyers now. They'd turned on each other so completely that joint representation was impossible. I testified on day 1. Told the jury about the Christmas party, the mirror, the switched glasses. About 3 months of thinking I was losing my mind. The defense attorney tried to shake me. Mrs. Edwards, you were diagnosed with dementia. How can we trust your memory? I was diagnosed with dementia because I was being poisoned, I said calmly. Scopolamine causes confusion, memory loss, disorientation. The symptoms disappeared within 72 hours of stopping exposure. My memory is fine. They played the videos, all 8 of them. The jury watched in silence. When the clip of Molly slapping me played, I saw 2 jurors crying. Joe testified on day 3. Told them about December 10th, the hot chocolate Silas made him, the violent illness, the ER visit. The toxicology report William had obtained showing scopolamine in Joe's system. He tried to kill me first, Joe said. His voice didn't waver. When I survived, he went after my wife. But the moment that broke the case, the moment I'll remember forever, was day 5. Paige's testimony. The prosecutor, Assistant DA Rachel Brennan, called Paige to the stand. My daughter wore a navy suit, hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked young and fierce and unbreakable. Rachel's first question. Ms. Edwards, when did you first suspect your mother was in danger? October 15th. I received an anonymous email telling me to check Mom's medical records. What did you do? Paige took a breath. I hacked into Swedish Medical Center's database and accessed her files without authorization. Gasps in the courtroom. The judge leaned forward. You violated HIPAA? Yes, Your Honor. Paige looked at the judge without flinching. I committed a federal crime, and I'd do it again, because if I hadn't, my mother would be dead. Rachel let that sit for a moment. Then, what did you find? Scopolamine in her bloodstream. Symptoms consistent with poisoning, not dementia. a pattern of confusion that only occurred after Molly's visits. Paige's voice was steady, clinical. I hired a private investigator. We installed cameras, collected evidence, built a case. Why didn't you just call the police? And here, this was the moment. Paige looked directly at Silas in the defendant's box. Because he's my brother. Because I wanted to be wrong. Because some part of me still believed there was a good explanation, that Silas would never actually hurt anyone. Her voice cracked. I waited 2 months hoping I'd find evidence that would exonerate him. That would prove Molly was acting alone or that it was all a terrible misunderstanding. Tears ran down her face now. But instead I found emails. Videos of them planning, discussing, laughing about it. She looked at the jury. My brother tried to kill both our parents for money, and when I realized that, when I knew for certain, I stopped being his sister. I became a daughter trying to save her mother's life. Ms. Edwards! But Paige wasn't done. She turned to Silas. You were my hero. When I was 8 and kids bullied me at school, you taught me to stand up for myself. When I was 16 and my boyfriend dumped me, you took me for ice cream and made me laugh. When I graduated college, you were the first person I called. Silas was crying silently. And you tried to kill Mom. For gambling debts. For money you lost on crypto and sports betting and poker games. Her voice rose. You looked at the woman who gave birth to you, who raised you, who loved you unconditionally for 35 years, and you saw a bank account. She stood up, hands gripping the witness box rail. I don't forgive you. I will never forgive you. But I hope 20 years in prison teaches you something Mom and Dad couldn't. That family is earned, not owed. That love is a verb, not a noun. And that when you betray the people who would have died for you, you lose the right to call yourself their son. The courtroom was silent. Even the judge was crying. The verdict came on day 7. Guilty. All counts. Both defendants. Silas Edwards, 22 years in state prison. Molly Edwards, 28 years. When the judge read the sentence, Silas put his head in his hands. Molly's face showed nothing. As they led them out in handcuffs, Silas tried one more time. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Joe turned away. Paige stared straight ahead. We walked out of that courtroom together, Joe, Paige, and me. William and Sarah and Kate and Vincent following behind. Our family, the one we chose. April brought cherry blossoms to Seattle, but we didn't stay to see them. We sold the Madison Park house in 3 weeks. A young family bought it. Parents with 3 kids who ran laughing through the empty rooms. I hoped they'd have better memories than we did. Joe and I moved to Naples, Florida. A 10th floor condo with floor-to-ceiling windows facing the Gulf of Mexico. Paige helped us pack. Sarah came to say goodbye. We all cried. But it was time to start over. Naples is warm. The sky is blue most days. The water is turquoise and endless. I joined a painting class. The instructor, Dorothy Palmer, is 72 with wild gray hair and paint-stained fingers. Paint what you feel, she tells us, not what you see. I paint sunsets, horizons, the place where water meets sky. I'm painting peace. Joe volunteers at the Naples Youth Center, teaching math to middle schoolers. His first student was a 12-year-old named Carlos who'd been failing. I couldn't save my son, Joe told me one night. But maybe I can help other people's sons. Carlos just got straight A's. We made friends. Tom and Linda, retired teachers from Minnesota, lived 2 floors down. Tuesday dinners became a ritual. Sarah visits twice a month, driving 2 hours from Tampa. She married Carlos, the carpenter she met at church. We went to the wedding. It was beautiful. Paige moved to Miami, works for a nonprofit teaching seniors about cybersecurity and online safety. She visits every other weekend, always brings key lime pie, and every month a letter arrives from Washington State Penitentiary. From Silas. I don't open them. I mark the envelope return to sender and put it back in the mail. Joe asked me once, Do you want to read them? Just one? No, I said. He had 35 years to talk to me as a son. He chose poison instead. I'm done. I'm not bitter. I'm just done. New Year's Eve 2026, 1 year after the trap. Joe and I stood on our balcony watching fireworks explode over the Gulf, gold and red and blue against the darkness. Are you happy? He asked. I thought about it. Really thought. Yes, I said. I wake up every morning and I'm not afraid. I drink my tea and don't wonder if it's poisoned. I look at you and know I chose right. Joe pulled me close. 48 years married. We're going to make it to 50. And beyond. Below us, people laughed on the beach. Guitar music drifted up. Strangers celebrating life. We stood there holding hands, watching the sky light up with color. And I thought about family. Real family isn't blood. It's not DNA or obligation or tradition. Family is action. It's choice. It's the people who stand beside you when the walls are shaking, who fight for you when you can't fight for yourself, who see you at your worst and love you anyway. I chose Joe. I chose Paige. I chose Sarah and William and Kate and Vincent and everyone who helped save my life. And they chose me back. That's family. That's enough. That's everything. The fireworks faded. Midnight passed. A new year began. And somewhere, 3,000 miles away, my son sat in a prison cell. But I was here, in Naples, warm and safe and loved. I survived. We survived. And sometimes survival is the greatest victory of all. If you're watching this and you've ever felt betrayed by family, know this. You have the right to survive. You have the right to choose yourself. You have the right to cut out the cancer, even when it shares your blood. Family is earned, not owed. And if you're a woman over 50 who's been told you're confused or forgetful or too old to understand, trust your instincts. You're not crazy. You're not losing your mind. And you're stronger than anyone gives you credit for. This is Jean Edwards' story, but it could be yours too. Choose yourself. Choose life. Choose the people who choose you back. That's how you win.